what happened during COVID. And I think the bottom line is I have just been thoroughly impressed by my team, as well as the IT teams within agencies, the 90 some odd agencies that we support within DC government. We've had people work, 3 days in a row, 24-hour days, even longer on some issues that we've had to kind of crank out quite quickly. Can't say enough about just the dedication, the quick thinking, and the sort of thoughtful solutions that folks have come up with. And that's on our teams, but I would argue that it's also our partners. So our strategic vendors, our CBE partners that have helped us along the way, made sure that we were able to get the equipment needed to support the city as we responded to COVID. We were able to essentially procure a number of devices quite quickly. Thanks to our wonderful partners in the CBE community. We were able to stand up call centers. We were able to help support additional applications moving to the cloud, moving online. We saw almost a 500% uptick in digital processes throughout the pandemic. And many, many more users than ever before using some of those digital processes. And so and one of the things that I think is the most beneficial is that we learned a lot about the ways that we work inside of government. The truth is, the use of Teams had us relearning how we were working. And it also meant that people had to think a little bit more about their processes and the ways that they interact. And to me, that, we worked hard, but I would argue that we also got smarter. And some of that, those lessons learned, we're now sort of repackaging, rethinking about how we help others and help other agencies think about where we go from here. I've never seen in my lifetime anything as pivotal as what has happened over the past 15 months that, in my opinion, is going to change the future of government. We need to learn from what we just went through and work better. And really think through the processes that we use to deliver services, because what we found in COVID is we can deliver those services better in various ways. And so now we've got to take those lessons learned and really make a change that's permanent. And so I'm excited about that momentum. I'm excited about what's to come. And now we just have to make sure that here at Octo, we're getting ourselves straight so that we can help support that. Because actually another conversation that I'd love to have with you all at some point is, there were some moments during the pandemic that I was, kind of contemplating. I saw colleagues decide to stand up solutions kind of on their own. They wouldn't involve their IT team. They didn't involve Octo. They just went out and, found a solution and brought it online. What worried me in those instances was, well, is there a role for a central IT office in the future of government? And I've had that conversation with a few of you on this call, many of the members of my team. And the truth is, I have since figured out that there is. I think actually the vaccine portal was the single project that we worked on that highlighted that truth for me. And the truth there is that I think that there is a fascinating nexus between industry and a government IT shop that allows for a solution to really be customized to fit the uniqueness of each of our jurisdictions. And we learned a lot, right? Microsoft came in and had a product that they indicated was going to work. We basically helped show them and guide them to tweaks that would allow that product to actually function in our jurisdiction. And I think the partnership ultimately resulted in a lot of people being vaccinated very quickly after a pre-registration system was stood up. But that nuance is something that our agencies don't necessarily recognize. Sorry, let me try that again. That nuance is something that some agencies have learned. Some agencies haven't. And what we need to do now, and I actually think it's sort of all of us, and as sort of responsible stewards of, whether you're a contractor of the government, whether you're just in the technology industry at large and thinking about solutions for the future, or you're working in an IT shop in the government. We all have a responsibility to really think about the solutions that are going to be helpful, integrated, and reliable and resilient to meet the needs of governments. We tend to focus on, especially in the tech sector, fun products that end up supporting enterprises that are, for profit, consumers that are clicking buy. But the truth is, government tech is a whole different world. And I think together over the course of the next few months, I would love to continue that conversation with all of you so that we're all on the same page as we move forward. Within Octo, the things that we're thinking about right now include a data maturity model, where we go back to each of the agencies, and this really kind of fits into everything that's kind of going on right now. What's your baseline? Where do you have data stored? How do you use the data? Where do you save it? And how do you engage with the public in regards to that data or information? Let's baseline that and kind of give you a score. Where are you in that maturity framework? How do we then map out a road forward where we can do two things? One, change the ways of working, right? What do I save on my computer? What do I save in shared folders? What do I save in an application? And then the parallel path is, what other applications do I need to more efficiently move that data and deliver the service that I'm slated to deliver in a more efficient and auditable way? The charge here is that we've got to make sure that we're doing this thoughtfully and that we're doing this together, so that we don't have agencies running off and doing this on their own, but instead utilizing the tools that we've got and sort of as an enterprise offering, and then thinking about those tools that we need to complement. And really, those, whether we're building or buying the solutions that are going to help move that agency along that maturity model, it sort of doesn't matter to me. But what does matter is that when we're building those tools, we're really thinking about the business processes that agency is using, and we're kind of blowing them up, right? We're re-engineering them to fit the model of sort of the future of government. And we're going to need everybody on this call's help to do that, because we're going to have to really change the way that people work. And the way that people think. And this all boils down to really delivering and making sure that everybody understands that they are a part of standing up our risk management framework. We need to make sure that every single person in DC government understands, and every single contractor, everybody that works for us understands that the data that we are asked to curate and hold dear is critical. And then we all play a part in making sure that we're managing risk, and we're doing so in a very thoughtful, useful, and reliable way. And so just that's sort of a quick synopsis of some of the things that I'm going to talk about in the Octo budget hearing on Monday. And we're going to dive into more of how we're going to kind of accomplish all of that I just talked about in the coming months. But wanted to give you that sort of snippet and then say, how are we going to start? So bottom line, bottom line is, over the past few weeks, we have realigned Octo to sort of better meet the expectations of this moment. And so here you'll see our core team at Octo, and I wanted to kind of introduce each of them and have them give you a little taste of some of the things that are on their plate, and then we'll get a little bit more into the mayor's budget, because what Mayor Bowser has done in her budget this year is really make an investment in what I just talked about, making sure that we're supporting sort of those ways of working as we sort of look to the future, right? Government is never going to look the same again as it did pre-COVID. And how Octo supports that is going to be critical. And Mayor Bowser has made investments in her budget to do just that. And then at last on the agenda, we'll talk a little bit about the months to come and sort of the conversations that we'll be having then. And why I want to lay out those conversations for you is because I'd love for you to say, hey, I have a sort of an interesting thing that I'd love to bring up in that topic area so that we can highlight some of you as well. So that said, wanted to just make sure that I was explaining sort of what we're thinking about. And to the point that I just talked about, cybersecurity and risk governance really is sort of at the top of the food chain, right? Our Chief Information Security Officer, Sunil Cherukuri, has gotten us through a pretty, if I was to say that the last 15 months, like the top of mind concern with 60 some odd % of our workforce working remotely and not on our network wasn't scary, I would be lying. And so Sunil, the security team is really sort of touches all of us. But then the rest of our operations, we have segmented as opposed to sort of the multiple different groups that we've seen in the past at Octo. I've asked two folks to be the deputy CTOs, Steve Miller for digital services, which really kind of delves into those new ways of working. We're combining our web services team. Actually, I'm going to let them all talk about it. And then Henry Lofton to run our traditional IT operations from core to endpoint. Now, in order to change the way that we're working internally so as to support every other agency in their change as well, we are always reliant on our central ops team to make sure that we've got the tools that we need to accomplish the goals and objectives. And that's Carol Harrison at the helm there. And what we also want to make sure that we're doing is we're not forgetting the lessons learned. So Taj Johnson is really helping us rethink our processes, but also measuring our performance, baselining it today, seeing how new ways of working, our new organization can really better perform going forward. And Tayseen Farouk, who most of you are familiar with, is also sort of in that same vein, helping us think through better kind of management of our funding. How do we make sure that we're working smarter with what we've got, thinking through strategic sourcing and implementing a sort of a business model where we kind of understand what we pay for. So without further ado, do we want to go in that order? Sunil, do you want to just say hi? Okay, Steve, do you want to say hi?
Morning, everyone. I've met a lot of you. I've talked with a lot of you over the years, and I'm not going to, go through and talk through my greatest hits, but, Lindsay talked through a lot of what we're going to be trying to do, and it's going to be pretty important that we have good partners as we look to get through this improvement in the way that the BC government functions and deliver services to the residents, businesses, and visitors, and look forward to working with all of you as we get through that next few years. Thank you.
Do you want to talk about our first project?
Sure. Yeah. So our first project, we're going to be investing in getting together a user-focused approach to improving and bringing about an ease in doing business with the district. So we'll be working on what we'll call the Business Center project in digital services, and we're going to be working with all the agencies involved to improve their processes, to consolidate systems, to work at the ease of moving information and data between these agencies, so that when you or when someone wants to start a business, or when someone wants to expand their business or change information about their business, work with agencies like OTR, work with agencies like DDOT, work with agencies like DCRA. DCRA is going to be a major partner in this project. We're going to work to improve their processes. We're going to work to improve their systems. We're going to work to improve the supporting systems, get the staff trained up, get them more capable to lessen that burden on doing business with the district, doing business in the district, doing business in general. So, we're going to be working with some of you for implementation, but we'll also be working with some of you to understand the pain points that you've had going across these different processes, going across these different systems with agencies, again, like DCRA, DDOT, OTR, in many cases. And it's going to be this is not something that we know we're going to accomplish overnight. We know that in order to put in place these user-centric design methodologies to
We know
make it
that.
easier to do.
We know that. I'm not quite sure the mayor knows that, but we know that it's not going to happen overnight. But we're
Yeah.
trying to we're going to have to bring her along that spectrum too.
Yeah, and I mean it's our end goal is to make it easier to do everything when it comes to owning or running or building up a business in the district, and then we're gonna take the lessons we learned from this and see how we can apply it across some other clusters in DC down the line. So it may not like if we're looking to solicit feedback from you on how that process worked for you yesterday or how that process worked for you today, please engage with us and work with us, and certainly look forward to we're going to have a lot going out there to help us bring about that user-focused approach. We're going to need subject matter experts, project managers, data scientists. We're going to need developers. We're going to need people to help us map those user journeys and document all this, and then help us work with those agencies also to understand that these process improvements that we're going to put in place on when we hit day 100, that's not the end for that, because there's going to be we're going to find and analyze and find other ways where we're going to have to improve those processes. And again, that end goal of making these government services easier to access, making them more secure, making it easier to start a business, is going to help our economic engine. It's going to help us build back better, and it's going to help increase the footprint of small businesses in the district, which is a big deal for us. We appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Henry, you're
Sure.
up
Good
next.
morning. Good morning, everyone. I think I've worked with several of you in the past. Some, we're still working together on various projects. Others have been pinging me, and I apologize. There's just a lot going on right now, so I will definitely make time to sit down and talk with you and see kind of what the industry is doing, which gives us a better view into how we should be moving forward. Um, just some of the thought process behind having the IT operations group is that we had multiple infrastructure teams, and it really didn't make sense from a customer perspective. So, kind of combining those teams, you have compute and storage, you have network monitoring, right? And then you have, I'll say, device management and support. Um, they were kind of just spread out across multiple teams, and they were kind of working in their own silos, right? And what we found is that some of the activities that one group was working on, there was a duplicative effort, from another team. So by combining everyone into IT operations, we're able to get a view and to really be efficient in how we work and how we provide solutions, um, not only for you, but I also have to provide solutions for digital services, right? Because everything that Steve talked about, he's talking about making things better, making things more efficient, making things more reliable. Well, I have to make sure that that foundation is in place, and that things are always up and available and reliable. So that's kind of the focus going into FY22. It's just kind of looking at what we have, where we are, um, what's, where there's overlap, look to find efficiencies there, look at systems. I've asked the teams to look at their toolbox, so to speak, and really look at what they have and see if, they have the right tool set, to help us going forward. We're looking at things like automation and orchestration, right? So how can we really streamline the process when an agency or a whether it be DC Gov, federal, or nonprofit, when they're coming to us, how do we make that process a little more seamless, and working with obviously the other teams, but especially Taj Johnson on how we can really streamline that process. Um, I'm working on it from the infrastructure side. How can I align the infrastructure to support a streamlined process and still be stable? So I will definitely be reaching out to folks to kind of get feedback and ideas and suggestions, and there will probably be some partnering opportunities as well. That's that's what I'm working on. It's a lot.
I was gonna say,
It's
not
as much as
much,
Steve,
not
but
much.
it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Carol, do you want to go next?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Carol Harrison, Chief of Staff here at Octo, and I manage all the central operations, as Lindsay said before, both internal and external across Octo and across agencies to kind of help them make sure that things are in place so that they have, as Stephen said, the right skill sets and the right people that we need to get all of these things done. But just working with you guys, we're thinking about, career pathing and, apprenticeships and internships across Octo as we move forward, to try to make sure that we identify the right skill sets and bring the right people along, as we have a huge mission to accomplish. Just, happy to be on the team and working across and working with everybody here. Look forward to talking to you about different things and different ideas where we can begin to kind of work across and identify those individuals and skill sets and give everybody an opportunity to come and, be a part of the team. So look forward to working with everybody. And that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Carol. I think the only other thing to add there is, one of the things that we'll be looking to industry to help us with is thinking definitely about apprenticeships, definitely about mentorship moments, definitely about internships, but also training opportunities. We have a very helpful injection of federal dollars right now, but that's not here to stay forever. And so looking to think through better ways to make sure that we're training ourselves, and we're sort of constantly doing that, but also the greater government as well, as we move them sort of along a sort of a tech savviness continuum. Taj, and then Tayseen, and then Sunil, we'll get to you at the end, and I'll just let you guys go one after each other.
Sure. Thanks, Lindsay. Good morning, everyone. Taj Johnson. Like Henry said, I recognize a lot of names on the call. As they've said, I'm primarily focused on performance and process improvement. I'll be working across all the teams, everything from looking at our existing processes, like Lindsay said, to kind of figure out where we are now, to look for opportunities to improve and streamline. We'll be looking for opportunities to automate, with a focus on consistently delivering value to the customers, making sure that we're consistently delivering on our commitments, whether they be projects or standard service delivery. So really looking forward to getting ideas from the community. There may be some opportunities to have some analysts and get some ideas around automation and other process improvement things. But really looking forward to working with this team. As you've heard already, we have a lot of things on our plate. We really want to make sure we're prioritizing and we're planning to make sure that we're checking all the boxes and, like I said before, kind of meeting all of our commitments. So looking forward to hearing more from this team and working with this team. Tayseen?
Thank you, Taj. Good morning, guys. I feel like I've been seeing you guys almost all through the pandemic, whether virtually or talking to you guys, but really good to see again everybody in this collaborative platform. I think most of Lindsay and the rest of my colleagues already touched on this, but I think one of the lessons that we've learned through this pandemic is that how critical it is to have strategic sourcing as one of our focal areas, right? And strategic sourcing, not only thinking through thoughtfully, all of us collectively, how to procure, how to make sure that we're being good custodians of our federal funding that we've been going to be receiving as a big effort towards this recovery, but also to really come together and plan, communicate. We have a lot of projects, as Steve mentioned, Henry mentioned, Lindsay mentioned. We want to make sure that we're thinking through how to create agile contracts that's helpful for not only us to deliver the services effectively and on cost, but also to find out from you guys best practices, what you've learned in the process that will help us and you guys in the industry partners also to continue with this the ecosystem, right, in this community. So again, really looking forward to having a lot more conversations. One of the things that I will be really helping the agency with is making sure that we also have easy tools, right, that our agencies can also use for procuring tech easily. It should no longer be a challenge to work with the district government, right? We've learned a lot of lessons. We want to make it easy. We want to make it helpful. And above all, we want to make it meaningful, right? So really hoping that this year will be focused on making some good efforts, creating procurement playbooks, being more transparent, having more communications, and just keeping with that theme. So thank you.
Thanks, Stacey. And Sunil, last but not least.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today is an unusual day. I could not even find the mute button for whatever time I've been trying. So, everyone, most of you guys I've worked with all the time. I see some new names here. I feel like I'm going to use one of Lindsay's lines. I think I feel like I have the best job in the world. Just like how Lindsay always says, I'm going to go after her. The thing that makes my job really exciting and fun for me is not the challenges or the headaches that come with it. It's actually the support I get from the leadership as well as the vendor community. I've never had any, every time I had to say no or actually say a course correction advice or anything like that, I got good support from both sides, and that's what makes my job a lot easier. And that's what the focus is going to be for 2022 as well. We made a lot of progress in making sure that the district systems are secure, priority focusing on the data as opposed to just a system or a network. And that is going to keep continuing over the next few years. It's not a job that's going to just be done overnight or just by security themselves or just by Octo. It is a combined effort, which includes pretty much the entire district government as well as the vendor community. And you guys play a key role every time you have a project, every time you're running on assisting an agency with their development or enhancements. You play an important role in securing it as well. So we're not going to be acting as oh, look, we came here to save the day, but we are all going to be doing it together and actually making sure that the district's data and systems are all well protected. To kind of make it a lot simpler, we will be working in the same lines as what Tessie mentioned. We are also going to be start looking at some playbooks where you have some standards. We already updated our policies. They're all available on the website. Publicly available on the website, and we are going to be starting issuing procedures and standards that align with those policies. That will make your life a lot easier. You don't have to reinvent anything. You just start utilizing those policies and procedures, which will set us into a good framework. Again, my goal is to actually learn from you all. You have a much more broader view from various engagements that you all do. And we just wanted to be in a constant learning curve and actually trying to improve the security for the district government.
Thanks so much, Sunil.
Thanks, Lindsay.
No, that's perfect. And Sunil does sometimes I would argue undersells himself. One of the things that I think anybody that has worked with us on any of sort of the incidents and events that we've had to think about over the past few months has recognized that our security team is pretty phenomenal. We've got really smart people on board thinking about ways to make sure that we're mitigating risk for a very complex, large, diverse network. And I can't say enough about that team. Thank you very much, Sunil. I really appreciate it. And to that, I wanted to make sure that you saw in the chat. Yep, Octo Communications just posted the IT policy, the link to the IT policies that Sunil talked about. Those were released at the end of last year. So first time we've had new policies in like, I don't know, 7 years. So really good, lots of good things happened while we had people just very productive, without the commute. Without other distractions, just had a lot of focus and some massive projects were moved forward. So really appreciate that. On that note, I think we'll move into kind of a look ahead. The mayor released her budget now, I think it's 2 weeks ago, and testified on it last week. Next Monday, I get to testify on behalf of Octo, Octo, the Office of the Chief Technology Officer, in front of our DC Council. Councilmember Robert White is the committee chair for government operations, under which we fall. The hearing is at noon, and we can go to the next slide. I think the overall technology investment in the mayor's budget is quite significant. So while our year-over-year budget at Octo in our local dollars doesn't change that much, that's okay. We have a almost 30% increase in funding due to federal dollars. And I wanted to sort of quickly go over some of the different areas and things to look out for. Obviously, many of you know, many of you know that the mayor's budget is a proposal that the council then evaluates and comes up with their own kind of version of it at a little bit of a later date. Nina, I can't see. Okay, but I did want to just sort of alert you to the different chunks that you'll see in the budget. It's not all in one place, not always super easy to understand, but this is just a kind of a quick overview. I'm really thinking about, I wanted to make sure that we were aligning our technology investments in the ways that the mayor is focused. And she is focused on recovery. She is focused on doing that equitably, and she is focused on making sure that we're thinking through future growth of our city, so that our shared prosperity sort of continues to rise. And so when we're talking about recovery, a few issues are obviously top of mind given the way of the world at the moment, and cybersecurity kind of reigns supreme. There is an allotment in the budget for some of the work that needs to get done. We have some core infrastructure that needs upgrading so that it's not end of life, end of support, so as to sort of maintain our posture going forward. In regards to strategic sourcing, as Taysine pointed out, we know that she's a rock star at Octo. Maybe unfortunately now everybody else in DC government knows she's a rock star as well, and was able to really help. Don't leave. That's why I say unfortunately, Taysine. That's the only thing. There were a number of agencies that needed to procure quite quickly, and really sort of Taysine's dedication, diligence, and organization we were with just Taysine really, and a team at OCP, obviously, that supports us as well. We were able to really quickly come up with the products to meet those demands. I think we learned a lot about kind of what we need to do in terms of centrally procuring versus not. and the mayor's budget kind of makes an investment in that as well, with 2 additional people for Tayseem's team to do just that and really think about how we're analyzing kind of what we buy across the board in DC government so that we're making that easier, as Tayseem mentioned. I put digital services in recovery as well because to my sort of opening comments, the sort of future of government is dependent upon it, right? Everybody recognizes that sort of government processes as compared to sort of the Amazons of the world are a little bit more cumbersome, oftentimes because we've got to be more secure, more reliable, more accessible, and not oftentimes always than the Amazons of the world. But we are we still recognize that we need to be more user focused. We need to make sure that we're more resident focused, more business focused, more visitor focused when it comes to how we're organizing ourselves internally. And so the investment, the mayor makes an investment in her budget, quite a hefty investment in standing up our digital services initiative. And that will go a long way to make sure that that business portal that Steve talked about comes to fruition. Under equity, no doubt, everybody in the room understands that the digital divide existed prior to COVID, but the truth is, we know that COVID only served to further amplify it. Make very obvious was the fact that there were families that were unable to participate in online education courses when we went remote. We know that there were seniors that were at home and dealing with social isolation, not able to get to their primary care doctor, not able to make use of telehealth options. We know that there were others that were laid off of jobs that were unable to then take training courses online to think through sort of next career steps. That can't happen again. And now, arguably, the momentum is like it has never been. To change that and make sure that we're effectively bridging that divide. The mayor makes good on that and invests more than $26 million to do just that, and arguably more coming down the line. The $26 million goes to devices for the 38,000 households that we know don't have a computing device right now. Half of them have a smartphone, but they don't have a computing device. We know that there's further infrastructure dollars slated for Washington, D.C. And we're waiting on U.S. Treasury to kind of tell us how we're able to spend that. But we're hoping to utilize parts of that. I think it's $107 million bucket on really thinking about an innovative way to provide access to those households that also need reliable, high quality internet going forward. I'll talk about it a little bit in my hearing, but I've been very impressed with some of the jurisdictions, mostly school districts, that have implemented citizen broadband radio service. And we're looking at piloting and thinking about what that could do. I believe it could be a game changer here in Washington, D.C. In regards to growth, Carol touched on this. One of the things that keeps me up at night is making sure that this top talent that I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with across the district on our IT teams continues to stay here, but that we're also able to attract the next generation of great IT talent. And in order to do that, we also we know that we need to make sure that we're kind of standing up apprenticeships, standing up internships in meaningful ways. And additionally, when it comes to growth, we've heard from all of you and many more about the need for there to be a centralized place for the tech ecosystem in Washington, D.C. I've talked about this a great deal in the past with all of you, but we're finally there. We've got a hub site, and Nina, let me know if we want to talk about it.
The landing page will be updated by 1 p.m. our time today.
Okay.
Just got word.
So we can tell people about it, but hubdc.tech, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so hubdc.tech at 1 p.m. today, you'll see a landing page that will actually invite folks to partner with us on it. And if you're interested, basically this is going to be a channel similar to tech hubs in London and New York and Boston and Tel Aviv that allow for business to business connections to be made, business to investor connections to be made, job training, job openings and opportunities, as well as internship opportunities, and sort of other events, and also challenges as you know, thrown out there by government and or other private sector partners. The idea behind this hub is that it's not a DC government run site, but that we use it to communicate to the tech industry, but that really it's meant for the tech industry to use it to grow. So that is a sort of a light kind of overview of sort of the big chunks in our budget, but we'll go to the next slide quickly here. I do want to also say that we have stood up an IT investment review board helmed by Barney Krukoff for the past 2 years. And I would say that past 3 years, I would say that this year was the most successful investment review board recommendation to the mayor's office. Of the 34 projects considered, 31 of them have been funded in the mayor's budget. And what we'll do is we'll sort of unpack those sort of as we move through the budget cycle, but wanted to just sort of give you a glimpse that along the same lines of that data maturity model that I was talking about, the chunks of change for these 31 projects really are in data integration, in application modernization, and in infrastructure modernization. That's where sort of the major capital projects are at this point. We're going to continue to improve the ITIRB process over time, meeting quarterly with those that have projects that they're working on to make sure that we're understanding where they are, what else they need, but also bringing the CIOs from across the district together to make sure that when it's time for the next ITIRB recommendations to go to the mayor, we're even more prepared and more streamlined and more in agreement by cluster about what our priorities are. We worked on that over the past over COVID, we've put together about 5 different budgets. So we've had lots of conversations, but we'll be even more targeted going forward. Wanted to pause there and see if anybody has any questions. And that's okay. We'll keep going. The next thing is, oh, was there a question?
Yeah, quick question is the modernization, is that going to be more, would you say, operational or capital investment?
So in terms of the 31 projects that I just talked about, those are all capital projects. Mm-hmm. There are a number of this is the first year that we've actually looked at a few operating projects, operating dollar projects, and I actually we're still looking through exactly what got funded there. I'll have a better update on that on Monday in time for the budget hearing. But those are sort of few and far between, and mainly in the public safety space. And good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Hi, Lindsay. This is Melissa Daly. I have a quick question.
Sure.
How does and maybe they're different, but how does the Hub DC work with Tech together? Are they separate?
Oh, yes, they are separate. So Tech Together DC is a government, and that's what I should have talked about. Tech Together DC, thank you for saying that, Melissa. Good tee up. My team will be very pleased. Tech Together DC, which you can find more about at techtogether.dc.gov. That is an initiative launched by the mayor late last year to really make sure that we're focused on bridging the digital divide. And under that, we have government, academia, nonprofits, for-profits involved in the conversation, but really focused, very targeted to 4 action areas. And that is on access, as I talked about, on delivering devices to the households that aren't readily utilizing internet-connected devices, and then demystifying technology through training and support, making sure that the relevance of that device, of that access, is made understood. And then if we get all that right, and this sort of goes to the digital services piece, we've also got to make sure that DC government employees are tech savvy, right? Because if we make sure that all of our households have a device and they're able to access services online, well, yeah, DC government, we got to get there as well. So that is the Tech Together initiative. So Tech Together initiative is focused on digital inclusion, focused on making sure that we're bridging the digital divide. The hub is really for the tech ecosystem writ large, right? Small businesses, big businesses, events in the space, a sort of a learning center for folks that are looking to get in to the industry, and then also a place for entrepreneurs to grow and find business relationships. Does that make sense, Melissa?
Yes, thank you. That was very clear.
Okay. Thanks for asking. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Anyone else? Well, there's another moment for Q&A in just a second here. We'll just go to the next slide. And so, like I said at the beginning, I wanted to kind of lay out the entire year of sort of what our conversations were going to be focused on each month. So, as you can imagine, digital inclusion is top of mind. That is going to be the conversation next month, and really sort of talking about this $26 million investment and how we're going to get it out the door. We are in August. We are hopeful that we'll be able to launch Hub DC publicly at a tech jobs fair, along with some other partner agencies, DC Public Library, Department of Employment Services. And so if you've got jobs that you want to feature, that's also why it's going to be a good thing to go to hubdc.tech and sign up there to make sure that we can feature some of your companies and your job openings as well. September, a deep dive into digital services, that'll be, Steve will be launching the business portal. No, just kidding. But we need to, we'll need a lot of your help as we move along a continuum to get to a great place on the business portal. In October, we'll do a deep dive into cybersecurity, as it is Cybersecurity Month. In November, a focus on IT operations. In January, an open house on our performance plan, and so where we're going, how we're getting there, and how we're measuring it. In February, a focus on data management and that maturity model that I just talked about. In March, Women's History Month, a focus on women in tech and gender equity in tech. In April, and highlighting small businesses owned by women and female executives as well in larger organizations. In April, it's going to be all about the cloud, talking a little bit about the cloud decision tree that we are putting forth for agencies to utilize. In May, a little bit more involved in regards to that digital services work about human-centered design. In June, a deep dive into tech procurement, and really hoping that by then we'll have some even greater lessons learned about the ways that we are working going forward. In July, a regional CIO conversation, hoping to grab, and I see some of the regional CIOs on the call today, hoping to have some of the regional CIOs all talking in the same space with all of you, because I've heard from a number of you that you believe that that would be very beneficial. I totally agree. We have some tremendous colleagues in the region that we've been meeting monthly via our Council of Government calls. In August, we want to talk about startups, entrepreneurs new to the space, GovTech and beyond. In September, as we think about back to school and what back to school is going to look like with more devices than you can even imagine in classrooms and at home, we want to kind of deep dive into that. And then, of course, we'll repeat, because there's never enough time to talk about cybersecurity, another cybersecurity deep dive. So that is, what we'll do is we'll get this online. We'll shoot you all a note that we're here today with actual specific dates that we're going to try to do each of these. Don't beat us up too badly if we've got to move some of those dates, but we're trying really hard to map out what we can now for the entire year. Any questions about that? Let's just stay here for a little bit, Nina. Oh, Jerry, go ahead. Yeah, I can't hear you.
How can industry help in any one of these events?
Yep, perfect question. That's the question that I should have answered, and I apologize. So one of the things that I'd love for folks to do is reach out to us, and I don't remember how I'm supposed to ask you to reach out to us. CTO@dc.gov, right? I can't remember. Sorry.
Oops, sorry. We have a new sign up form. If you go to octo.dc.gov, you'll see the Unleash the Possible. And if you guys can just fill that out, there's a section there to say what you're interested on this list, or if we're missing a topic you think we should consider, and then provide us some feedback and we'll follow up.
And so if you've got things that you want to highlight, projects that you've worked on in DC, projects that you worked on elsewhere, solutions that you'd like to kind of highlight. I can't promise that we can fit everybody in, but I'd really like to make sure that we're making space for small businesses and some of our larger partners to sort of have featured sort of spotlights during these conversations going forward. And that's the way to get involved. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great.
Lindsay, the one thing I wanted to add for the group also is we get a lot of emails, and unfortunately they get lost in the bustle of the day. So that's why we're really kind of encouraging everybody to go to the website, put in your details, submit a capability statement. It allows us to also have a repository of, what you guys have, the good work that you guys have done, and we can draw onto it instead of getting lost in an email. So check it out.
Yep. And Taysine, if you don't mind posting the link to the council oversight hearing, Nina just sent it to you. She just can't post while she's presenting, and neither can I. I'm not using the same device where I can post. What other questions should we answer right here? Anything else, Jerry?
Oh, I have plenty, but I'll leave the floor open to everyone else.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Do we have another slide? Or
Just kind of
nice.
going over what we just talked about.
That's great. And we're going to be converting our COVID-19 ideas collection site to sort of a recovery focus. And we'll get you information about that as well. But a lot of you submitted ideas at COVID-19 ideas.dc.gov. Really appreciate it. A number were used to support our work during the pandemic. Wouldn't have known about them had you not submitted them, so we really appreciate it. We're going to revert that site to a sort of a recovery focus, right? If you've got projects, thoughts, solutions that will help DC government build back better, we want to hear about them and we want to hear from you. And we'll get that information out sort of with a wrap-up email by the end of today. Anyone else? Otherwise, we're kind of at time. And we can give you back, 2 minutes to get ready for your next video call. All right. Well, really appreciate everyone being on. So good to see a lot of the names. Great, even greater to see faces. Really appreciate that. And we'll, oh, great. Thanks, Anthea. We will be back in touch with sort of the calendar specific dates for the next year so that we can kind of provide at least a little sort of better understanding of when we'll be chatting again for the next year. And we really, really appreciate all of your support over the past 15 months. Can't say enough about it. Thank you so much, and talk to you next month.
Thank you, Lindsay and team.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.